Good morning, Special Agent Dickerson.
Good morning.
Just to formally introduce myself, I'm Doug Weinstein, and I am representing Mr. Kassotis in this case. I just want to make sure I understand your experience. You have been a crime scene specialist for about 4 years, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's with the GBI. I understand you have experience before that as well, right?
That's correct.
And did you say yesterday, and I understand you're not a statistician, I think that's the words you used, but you see about 20, or you analyze about 25 to 50 scenes per year?
25 to 30.
25 to 30.
Yes, sir.
So over 4 years, 100, 120, roughly. I won't hold you to that number, but 100, 120 is about right?
Sure.
Quite a few.
Yes, sir. Right around there.
Okay. Let's go back to December the 2nd. You go to, I guess, the scene at Jones Road and what we're calling Hunt Club Road, that intersection where the gate is, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you
Better
get
than Torso
there
Road.
at about 9:15 at night, roughly.
Yes, sir.
You said that there was lots of trash on the side of the road, correct?
Yes, sir.
You said there were beer cans, right?
Yes, sir.
You said there were Coke bottles. When you say by the side of the road, was that on Jones Road or was that on the Hunt Club Road?
Jones Road is a public road, so there's far more litter on the side of Jones Road than there was on the Hunting Club Road, but there was some on the Hunting Club Road as well.
And again, you saw beer cans and Coke bottles. What other trash did you see there?
Just your generic roadside litter that you would see anywhere. And I say Coke bottles generically, soda bottles. But I remember seeing a box that contained an alcoholic beverage, like a cardboard box. I think there was even a couple of old box TVs, CRT TVs that had been discarded in the woods there at the intersection. So there's a significant amount of trash in the area.
And as an old trademark lawyer, I appreciate you clarifying that when you said Coke bottle, you really meant that generically and not the Coca-Cola company.
Yes.
So now you did not elect to take any of those beer cans or soda cans, soda bottles, beer bottles into evidence, correct?
That's correct.
Now, isn't it true that beer cans, Coke bottles, that type of material, you could get latent prints off of those at times, correct?
That's a possibility, yes.
And out of that 100, 120 scenes that you have collected evidence from before, have you ever picked up cans, bottles, other things like that?
Yes, sir. I picked up items that were later processed for latent fingerprints. Yes.
Okay. But in this case, you elected not to pick those up, correct?
That's correct.
You did also, there was a cigarette pack that was photographed, I believe a Marlboro pack, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you took that Marlboro pack into evidence, right?
I did.
Are you the person, once you collect this into evidence, it then goes to a crime lab?
That's correct.
And what crime lab does that go to?
So when I say crime lab, the GBI operates a statewide crime lab, and we have several locations. The location that serves our area is located in Poole. Coastal Crime Lab.
I'm sorry. Are you through?
I am.
Okay. When it goes to the crime lab, are you the one that decides on what tests are performed by the crime lab?
To some extent, we can submit evidence to the lab and request that certain processes be conducted on evidence. We cannot require them to be processed. The lab does have to make decisions based on the resources that they have available to them.
I believe you testified that the case agent in this case I don't know what the right verb is, Tracy Sands. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Agent Sands. Do you
Tracy
see Agent
Sands.
Sands in the courtroom now?
I do.
Where's Agent Sands?
He's sitting at the prosecution table.
Okay.
It's the guy.
So does Agent Sands also, is he someone that could also request that certain evidence be analyzed at the crime lab?
That's correct. We can request.
So either you might request, Agent Sands might request, might request, correct?
That's right.
Did you request any analysis on that Marlboro cigarette pack?
So the evidence submission forms were made and the cigarette pack was submitted to the crime lab, but it would be a better question for Agent Sands than it would be for myself.
Okay, well, you specifically did not request any particular analysis on the Marlboro cigarette pack, correct?
That's correct.
We mentioned the bottles and the cans and that you could get latent prints off of those, or you have at times, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you also get DNA evidence off like a Coca-Cola can?
Certainly, it's a possibility.
But in this case, you collected none of those, correct?
That's correct.
And let's move to 311 East 65th Street in Savannah. So we'll talk about that for a bit. You called that a crime scene in your testimony. Why did you call that a crime scene?
It's sort of a shorthand for saying that it's a place that we searched for or examined for signs of criminal activity.
When you call it a crime scene, are you presuming that a crime occurred there?
So the presumption holds yes. We do need to, we're not going to go to a place that's just random and say, well, we don't think a crime happened here, but we're going to search anyway. I mean, we're going to go there based on fact and driven by how the investigation leads us, and then conduct an examination of a place, be it a vehicle or apartment, a house, wherever,
But you didn't
based
collect
on
it.
the fact that there may be something there.
Okay. And that property had a house upon it that we heard a lot of testimony about yesterday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there was also a shed in the back of the house, right?
There was.
Did you look in that shed?
I did.
About how big was that shed?
10 by 10, 12 by 12, not very big, but
And what was located inside the shed?
if I remember correctly, it was just packed full of tools and things you might find in a garden shed. There were some old paint cans, things stored. I don't recall exactly without referring to a photograph that I took of the interior, but it was not particularly well kept. It was a little haphazard the way things were stored inside.
Well, lots of folks keep their sheds in the back like that, I think, correct?
Me as well.
Did you do any luminol testing within that shed?
Not within the shed. I did, however, take a few items out of the shed and bring them into the house for testing.
What items did you take from the shed to bring into the house for testing?
There were some power tools.
And what was the result of your luminol testing on those power tools?
There was no result shown from the Blue Star application.
And when you say Blue Star, that's the Blue Star luminol that was discussed yesterday, right?
Correct. That's the chemical that causes the blue glow when it comes into contact with blood.
You also, and correct me if I'm wrong, always correct me if I misstate anything that you said, because I don't want to mischaracterize or get anything wrong about your testimony, okay? So please just stop me. Will you do that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think you will anyway. I just want to make sure I hear it from you. Did you testify yesterday that you do not believe, and I'm sorry, I have to be indelicate because of the nature of this case. You believe Mrs. Kassotis was not dismembered in that house?
I believe that there's not enough physical evidence available to make that determination decisively.
One way or the other?
Correct.
If she was dismembered in that house, what type of evidence would you have expected to find that might confirm that she was dismembered there, or lead you to believe with greater certainty that she may have been dismembered there?
Without sounding too jocular, hopefully a video of the inside of the house showing it, but that would be great evidence. There wasn't any video, obviously, of the interior of the house showing a crime having occurred, but if I were to remember yesterday when I taught, a lot of the questions that are posed to us asked about crime scene starts off with, well, it depends. In this particular case, it depends on, you would expect to see a lot of blood.
There you go.
But It will also depend on the preparations that were made prior to, and again, this is a terrible thing to talk about, but prior to her being dismembered, if there were any protective measures made. I put on a Tyvek suit before I got into a ditch full of mud and water and other biological hazards. If somebody were to lay down, say, a tarp or something like that, then.
What's the problem with him trying to give an explanation to the jury of how, if there's not a lot of blood, here's why it was still this guy anyway? I've talked about this, the incompatibility of this kind of contrast. And the state set it up an opening statement. This naval officer, this JAG officer, he's so smart. Of course he knows how not to get caught. And now he's going into that prong. He's going on that fork on the road. He's saying, if someone prepared in advance, look at me. I put on a whole Tyvek suit before I climbed in that ditch that was almost as tall as me. I'm almost 6 feet tall. It was a deep ditch. I was prepared. I put on the whole suit, didn't miss a beat. Contrast that, if that's what's supposed to be happening at this house, then why is every other thing that happens after this point 1,000,000% sloppy to the point where it looks like this person wanted to be caught for their crime? It can't go both ways. And this guy could still be guilty, but I still don't get why the state is playing this back and forth. They set up this back and forth. Maybe they didn't realize it, by saying on one end, this guy is so smart. He's a prosecutor. He knows how to get away with crimes. And he's so sloppy. We obviously have the right guy because he left everything behind. Which one is it? Just which one is it? So I won't be a Posy McPauserton, but if you missed yesterday, I'm trying to reconcile what the state's arguing.
That might protect items of furniture, the walls or floor from blood. So it just depends.
You found relatively little blood there, correct?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, the blood that was on the floor, I think you said that you had to do a full 1-minute exposure in order to render an image of the luminol glow from the floor, correct?
That's correct.
What's your typical exposure when you take a photograph of luminol?
Typically, again, it depends. If the reaction is very bright and the picture is being taken from very close away from the subject, it's like a close-up photograph as opposed to an overall photograph of the room where I might have to use a smaller aperture that lets less light into the camera per second that the shutter's open, then I may be able to use a 15 or 20 second exposure. If it's an overall photograph of a room and I'm using a smaller aperture in order to get the entire room in focus, then I may need to use a longer shutter speed to compensate for that darkness.
Well, let's compare it to the luminol glow that came from the futon that was found in the residence. Okay. How long was the shutter exposure when you photographed that luminol on the futon?
I honestly wouldn't recall.
Would that be in your notes?
So it wouldn't be in our notes. However, the digital cameras that we use contain a small piece of information called an EXIF file, or exchangeable image file. And you can think of that file like a tag on a Christmas gift, if you would. It's got a little bit of information about the photograph in it. It's limited to about 64 kilobytes of data. And what that contains is information about the date and time that was set on the camera when the photograph was made. It can tell you information about the make and the model of the camera that took the photograph. And it'll also tell you things like shutter speed, aperture, the ISO setting, or how sensitive the digital sensor was at the time that the photograph was taken. And for newer cameras and for your cell phones, it'll also contain geographic information like your GPS coordinates. So I could refer to that file, but we'd have to take a break and I'd have to load the file and look at it in a computer.
Okay. That EXIF file, that's essentially metadata, correct, about the photograph?
Yes, sir.
So you don't recall exactly how long. Was it less than 60 seconds?
Uh-oh.
I'm assuming so, yes. But again, I couldn't speak with any certainty, but it wasn't as long an exposure, I believe, as the overall of the entire room.
And as far as, I guess, what you've been referring to as the arc on the wall, the arc of blood that was about a foot long or so, yes, that was so minimal that you couldn't even photograph it, correct?
That's correct.
You made an initial application. I believe you said you had to get, did you say you had to get really close to even see that there was a glow?
Correct. It was very, very difficult to see.
And that futon, the location of the blood on the futon, you testified yesterday that, well, I guess you went to the house in May of 23, correct?
That's correct.
And Mrs. Kassotis' murder was back in that November, December 22 timeframe, correct? It was 6 months prior. Mrs. Kassotis was murdered about 6 months prior.
Yeah, her body was recovered on December 2nd. Yes, sir.
Okay. So it had been 6 months, and you said that futon, you don't know what position that futon was in 6 months prior to you being at the house.
No, sir. It's movable within the scene, so I have no idea.
So the futon could have been flipped around, correct?
Correct.
And while when you saw the futon, I guess the blood was on the, would be, I guess, behind where, on the backside of where your head would rest if it was a couch, correct? But it could have been flipped around.
Yes, sir.
And that blood could have been in the seating area of the futon if it was flipped around in that way.
Yes, sir. It'd be more on, like on the edge. Like if the futon was a mattress, so to speak, it was just foldable. But instead of it being on the top or the bottom, it would be kind of on the side.
So if you were sitting on the edge of the futon, then that blood could be beneath where you're sitting, correct?
Possibly.
When you do the luminol testing, that is just showing the presence of blood, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could be human blood, could be animal blood, right? You don't know what type of blood.
Yes, sir.
Does the luminol tell you whether it would be venous blood or menstrual blood? Does it tell the type of blood at all?
No, sir. Again, this chemical reacts with the hemoglobin, the iron in the blood, so it doesn't differentiate between where the blood came from within the body. It's just blood.
So because you just know it's some kind of blood, I think you testified that then you do an OBTI test, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just maybe to refresh everyone's memory, that OBTI test is the one that looked like those kind of COVID tests that we all had to suffer through a few years ago, right?
Yes, sir. Very similar.
Very small. The OBTI test, that tells you whether or not it's human blood, correct?
They can give you an indication thereof. Yes, sir.
Does it indicate whether it's menstrual blood or not?
No, sir.
Can we pull out, let me see which specific exhibit. Give me just one moment, please. You still have all your exhibits from yesterday up there behind you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you pull out exhibit 1.8, which is the package that contains the wipe that you found wrapped around the handle of the knife? Could you open that up, please? Would you remove the wipe once you have that open? Okay. Is it possible to open that up anymore without damaging it? May I approach Your Honor?
You may.
I'm not good at that.
They're gloves if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm
those.
good.
Rhodey.
Right, so there's actually two wipes there, is that correct? They're perforated, there's a perforation keeping them together?
That's correct.
Okay. You may put that away now, thank you very much. So you collected all of these wipes as evidence and you submitted them to the lab, correct?
That's correct.
You testified yesterday that in some cases, these cleaning wipes can destroy DNA, correct?
That's my understanding in conversations that I've had with the folks at the lab in the biology section, is that is a possibility that the DNA can be damaged by certain brands of cleaning wipes, depending on the chemicals that are involved in the process.
But then there are also other brands of cleaning wipes where DNA would not be destroyed, correct?
That's possible, but I couldn't speak to it with any certainty.
Did you ask that these wipes be checked for DNA?
Again, with Agent Sands having submitted the evidence himself for testing, then those requests would have been made through him.
So if you could just answer that one question, did you request that these wipes be tested for DNA?
I did not.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Special Agent.
Briefly, Judge.
All right, so we're gonna get to redirect chat. He's snapping the glasses off. It's very nice to see Doug as standalone. This is a single defendant case. He still went for brevity. I think he hit all of the important questions. And sitting here, if you guys were able to be in the chat yesterday, you guys already know the questions that everybody was asking. Well, do they know whose blood it is that's in this apartment unit that's being used as an Airbnb rental with other people coming in and out, renting it out for weeks, months, days at a time? Did they test who it was? Because the Kassotis hadn't been there in months and months at this point when they actually searched this home. So there's a little bit of blood on the futon. There's some spatter on the wall. There's this long exposure photograph, which if you're trying to say a spatter is indicative of something, but you use a long exposure photograph setting to be able to capture the reflection at all, the light that's illuminating at all, is that really an accurate visualization of the spatter shape? I don't know if you guys have ever tried to look at those when you try to take a long exposure photo of the sky with your phone, but it's all out of whack because it starts to illuminate beyond the actual shape of itself. It captures too much. All the key questions. Also, these questions about the cigarette pack, you don't collect the containers. Maybe that was just litter, who knows? But you collect the Marlboro cigarette pack. And now we have these wipes that are just conspicuously found around the handle of the knife. No apparent blood stain on what was used. And when we saw the hunting knife, it didn't look like it had that like shield guard that would help protect your hand from moving forward and over things and contacting the material of the stuff you're cutting. Not to be gross. We know it was a very difficult cut. They told us that for whatever reason, this person decided to cut through the femur bone instead of cutting the legs at the joint, which would be an easier cut. So a difficult cut, and somehow the wipe that's found around the thing doesn't have apparent blood on it. We don't know where this body was actually dismembered, but the knife is there as if to suggest that it was dismembered on the spot. And we have Doug very clearly for the jury asking, did you send the Marlboro cigarettes for testing? Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask Tracy Sands. Did you send the wipes for DNA testing? Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask Tracy Sands. I can't wait for Tracy to get on the stand. So, oh my goodness.